Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 28 of Optimal Living Advice, the podcast where we take any questions you might have about the many struggles of life and we get them answered for you on the show. I am your host, certified life coach Greg Audino. Got a good one on tap for you here today. We have a question sent in that's all about attachment in relationships. It's often tough to know just how close is close enough. And this viewer put it beautifully, so let's hear what she has to say. How do I know if I'm in a healthy relationship? I feel like one thing that has kept me from finding the right person is not being sure about if we have a healthy attachment to one another. I have a very hard time gauging what amount of space, communication, intimacy is healthy or harmful. How do these types of things go in a healthy relationship? Alrighty, good question to ask with Valentine's Day nearing. This is great stuff to take inventory of, and it sure can be confusing not only to gauge what's healthy in terms of these types of things, but especially when keeping in mind that everyone expresses themselves and their affection differently. With that in mind, there's been a lot of research done on this, and one psych model in particular I think is worth referencing here. It's called the attachment theory. So in attachment theory, the idea is basically that there are three different types of attachment. And believe it or not, there is actually a right answer or a form of attachment that we all ideally want to strive for in our relationships to people, places, things, and other nouns. The first type of attachment is called anxious attachment. We've definitely all experienced this in relationships, especially at a younger age, but it frequently follows people into adulthood, so listen up. A person with anxious attachment is typically overly clingy, needs a lot of attention, easily gets jealous. Essentially, they display a lot of traits that don't reflect confidence. The running theme is anxiety about not having the object of their affection around at all times and not trusting in their own independence or the independence of the object of their affection. There's constant fear of losing the object of their affection because there's a lack of confidence that they'll survive if that object is not with them, So they offer a suffocating amount of affection as a means of keeping tabs on the object of their affection. Typically, this leads to bad things. For my fellow Chris Farley fans out there, think of what Tommy Boy did to his pretty little pet when he was at the diner with Richard. Lots of destruction, lots of embarrassment. The anxious attachment habits are dangerous to the other party because they can easily be mistaken for being full of love and devotion. But over-reliance and insecurity can easily be mistaken for love and devotion too. Next, you have the total opposite of anxious attachment, which is avoidant attachment. Avoidant attachment is behavior that is almost bred out of fear of becoming too close so as to avoid getting hurt or losing independence. Avoidant attachment types are prone to needing extra space. They're rarely affectionate and can easily feel trapped if their partner tries to connect too much. You'll often find this in people who have interest in their partner, but simultaneously worry that those feelings put them at risk to lose their own freedom. So think of people who constantly feel smothered in their relationships and jump from relationship to relationship, never fully being vulnerable with any one partner. Avoidant attachment habits are dangerous to the other party because they can easily be mistaken for independence and strength. But fear of being hurt and fear of being vulnerable can easily be mistaken for independence and strength too. Finally, you have the sweet spot, which is called secure attachment. Though anxious and avoidance can feel secure in how they relay their feelings, the difference with those who are securely attached is that they have confidence in whatever degree of space their partner needs. That's not to say that secures are indifferent or careless to how their partners behave. That would be closer to avoidant. But the self-worth of the secure is not unhealthily attached. They understand their partner's needs and can be okay if their partner takes a while to text them back or goes for coffee with an ex or whatever. There is an ability to see connection, trust, and needs of the partner as opposed to being blinded by one's own securities, if that makes sense. In theory, we want our relationships to have this secure attachment. As we know, though, people express themselves differently. And the best bet to get both people on the same securely attached, triple stapled page in a relationship is to be communicative about these means of expression. Asking an anxious why they don't trust you, rather than exploding at them every time you're falsely accused, is how both parties start to understand one another. asking an avoidant why they won't tell you about their childhood rather than crying about why they never open up to you is how both parties start to understand one another. Communication and curiosity that is free of ego can bridge the gap between anxious and secure and between avoidant and secure, as both parties are able to calmly explore their patterns, the effects of their patterns on the relationship, and how those patterns can be changed for the sake of the relationship if necessary. It's really effort towards this type of communication that reflects a healthy relationship, maybe even more so than the behavior in the relationship in question. Amidst this communication, however, it is important to be mindful of the fact that secure attachment can be very difficult to find and is not always a simple way of living for people, as much as they might even want it to be. Anxious and avoidant types of attachment, like anything else, are born of certain experiences that can be too complicated for our partners to just shut off. It's also never too late for anxious and avoidant attachment to start, as any new strong experience can still happen. For example, you can't really cheat on your partner and then be upset with them for becoming more avoidant or anxious. If you're dating a late teen or someone in their early 20s, you also can't expect them to be totally free of anxious attachment either, as they probably haven't come to fully understand their identities yet. So, being aware of the natural ebbs and flows of life and relationships and how those ebbs and flows affect attachment is of really, really great importance too. Ultimately, experiences past and future alter our levels of attachment, and getting to the root of these experiences and how they affect our own or our partner's attachment gives us a glimpse into why our attachment is the way it is and how it can become more secure and more healthy. Another one in the books, babes. This one kind of brought everyone back to psychology class a little bit, but that's okay, nothing wrong with that. I sure hope it was of use to you, the viewer, and to all of you who have had some curiosity about your own relationship dynamics. If you still have questions, though, about that or anything else you might need help with, you can email them to us at advice@oldpodcast.com. That is advice@oldpodcast.com. We'll get them answered for you here on the show, and we will send you a free book for your trouble. And if you're looking for some more content on relationships, I do write about it a lot on my website, gregaudino.com. But it's also worth your time to check out another podcast in the old universe, if you haven't already, Optimal Relationships Daily. I recently took over as the host of that show, and though I'm reading essays of other specialists on it as opposed to answering questions myself like I am here, it's still a wonderful space to learn more about relationships and parenting, and I encourage everyone to check that out. We're going to wrap it up for now, though, guys. Thanks again for tuning in, and we sure hope that you will be in for the next one. Until then, everyone.